Hi everyone, my name is Shakeya Britton and I'm here with Lamar Gibbs for Thoughts He Changed. And I decided to partner with him because I have a story, a unique story, a personal story, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I've been following him for some time now, and his platform is about finding people with unique stories and just through their own story and their own walk with God, how God shaped and changed some of the thoughts that they had from past to present. So I decided, with the help of the Holy Spirit, of course, with his leading, to finally, after about 10 years, sit down and really go into detail about my story in hopes that my testimony will draw people to Christ and knowing who he is in his fullness, and to understand the love of God. The love of God is healing, it's transforming, it's freeing, it gives you boldness. And for a long time, I hid out of shame because I just wanted to tell the good part of my story and not the whole thing, because the whole thing it's messy. But through my personal time with the Lord and reading through the scriptures and reading the testimonies of the saints, I noticed that they too had messy pasts. And if God can redeem those, he can redeem mine. So I want to take you on a journey, and this journey is personal and sensitive, but it's a story of redemption. And I'm going to start from the beginning. So I decided to come back to the place where my healing began. My emotional healing began. My physical healing began. And that place is Nyack College. And I'm actually sitting on the campus right now. And I wanted to come here because I wanted to give it a full circle. I wanted to come back to the place of remembrance and honor the Lord through my testimony and honor him through what he has done in these past 10 years. And just by saying 10 years, a full decade has come and gone, and my story is still speaking. But I also wanted to tell people that this is a wonderful testimony full of God's grace and how he has physically healed me. But I also wanted to share the emotional healing that has stemmed from these past 10 years. The denial of emotional wounds and afflictions that happen when you're born with a disability, and just the experiences that has happened. And when I first was healed, I didn't want to acknowledge or talk about. But through wisdom, through prayer, through counseling, through just friends and family, through these past 10 years, I've, by the grace of God, come to an understanding that healing is not always physical, but it's emotional healing, it's mental healing, and it's physical as well. But the Lord is holistic. He looks at the total person, mind, soul, and body. And it is my desire to talk about those things, not just the physical part of it, because that has happened and it's real and it's true. However, I can't negate the other two, which is mind and soul. So I decided to come back to this place and as a honorarium, kind of like a heart sacrifice, if you will, unto the Lord. So I just wanted to invite you into that journey and start with, I guess, the beginning. So in 2007, I was a freshman at Nyack College, and I came with a lot of baggage, emotional wounds and physical wounds from childhood, adolescent years, trying to figure out who you are and your identity. And I came here by God's grace. I didn't know what Nyack College was. I never heard of it until then, but I had a friend who just put a little bug in my ear and told me about Nyack College. Then I went online and looked it up, and I was like, oh, it's only about 90 minutes away from the city, not too far from my family, but I'm far enough to get the college experience. So Initially, we were worried about finances because it was expensive at the time. And my parents, they were nervous because I had cerebral palsy at the time, and they were concerned about my health and balance and walking the campus because it had a lot of hills, and they were just concerned. But after the open house, we saw the campus. It kind of put them at ease, just a little. And after much begging, crying, and pleading, they allowed me to go. So I thought, freedom, I can finally be on my own and make a decision and finally have the college experience. But the Lord had something else in mind. He saw the broken little girl. I was 17 at the time. I had a lot of emotional wounds. Growing up with a disability, teasing and just the physical trauma of spasms. And what spasms are basically muscle tightening, where it tightens your leg muscles and your back muscles, and it caused chronic pain. So I lived with chronic pain for 17 years at the time. So having to deal with that, the mental anguish behind that, the teasing, and then my own self-perception, like self-esteem, was very poor. And then dealing with emotional traumas as well, from like seeing my grandparents sick and not having a really good relationship with my mom. That all added a factor into me. So when I came to Nyack, it was really a respite, a spiritual respite, if you would say. A city on a hill, like the Bible calls it. It was a light. And at that time, I didn't understand what the Lord wanted to do, but He made it known. As soon as I hit the campus, we did orientation and we did the spiritual class, and it delved deep into like different areas of healing. So as soon as I got on campus, the Lord wasted no time going through some personal issues that I had with like how I viewed myself and just the physical aspect of pain, and it was amazing. And being on campus, the Lord gave me friends to walk through life with, and that was healing in itself. Because when you grow up with like a disability, you always want acceptance. You want to be a part of something other than yourself. You want to be a part of a community. And I isolated myself because not a lot of people wanted to either hang out with me or go different places, or I isolated myself because of what I perceived somebody else saying to me. So that hindered a lot of relational connections that I would have as a teenager, right? So coming here, I was able to build community. I was able to find friends. I was able to go to different events and be a part of something that was bigger than me. And I had one friend in particular. He was healed of cerebral palsy, and he actually went here and he told me about his testimony. And that was the first time that I actually heard of someone being healed from cerebral palsy. And I remember deep down in my heart, I wanted what he had. I wanted to experience that restoration. I wanted to experience walking straight. I wanted to experience life without physical pain. I wanted to experience being normal. So as he was telling me, I was like, Lord, I want that. And I was wrestling in my mind whether it was true or not. Can God really heal? Does He do that today? And He would soon answer me, because that conversation happened in September. And a little over a month later, the physical manifestation of healing happened. But there was some emotional work that He had to do first before the physical came. So I continued going to chapel. I continued going to classes. I continued going to the small groups, the fire at the time. And I continued meeting with my friends and praying and actually reading the Word. And the Lord Himself would come and speak to me and share His thoughts with me and how He sees me. And it was a good work in my heart. But there was one thing that He wanted to do, and it was like I was surrendering all these things in my heart towards Him, but there was one area that He wanted the most, and that was healing. He wanted to show me that he could do that too. And my roommate at the time, Katora, I love that girl. She told me about Ron Wilborn. She told me about his experiences with healing and how just different testimonials and different stories about his experience and God using him to bring healing to people as a catalyst, right? And she was telling me the story, and she told me that he was going to be at Partington doing a healing service, and she told me to come. And at first I was really against it because I'm like, no, I don't want to go, I'm fine, I'm good. But she kept pushing. She's like, you should go, it's going to be awesome. And so that night I actually went to sleep, and I wasn't going to go. Just was going to sleep through that night and not go to the service. But the Lord literally woke me up. I felt a nudging. Someone nudged me, and no one was in the room. And the healing service started at, I think, 7, and I woke up at 6:50. So I got up, I got myself together, and walked over to Partington Hall and sat in the second row in the middle aisle. And Ron spoke about healing. He spoke about this woman at Costco's that he prayed for, and she was healed. And I'm sitting there, and all these doubts kept coming. Like, Lord, would he do that for me? Would you do that for me? Yeah, you did it for her. You did it for the people that I heard about. But would you do it for me? And he gave an altar call. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to lay hands on people. He said, you as a community, you're going to do it. You're going to pray for one another. And that was the first time I had people of my own age group pray for me, sincerely. So I got up, wobbled over to the aisle, and we were in a group, and they said, well, what do you need prayer for? And I said, well, pray for my grandmother because she's sick. You know, she has an illness, and I want her to be healed. And all of a sudden, they started laying hands on my legs and my back, and I was like, wait, no. I don't want, I'm good. I don't need healing. I'm good. I just want prayer for my grandmother. They started praying. They heard me, but I think the Lord heard my heart. I was saying, no, I'm good. But in my heart, I was like, I'm hurting. I need you to answer. So one person laid hands on my legs, another person laid hands on my back, and they were praying. And I'm sitting there and I'm crying in my tissues at the time. And I'm like, whatever I was saying, it wasn't audible because I was just so overwhelmed at the time. A lot of hurt, a lot of anguish, a lot of pain was coming up at that time. And within a few minutes, I feel my bones shift in my back, because at the time my back was very curved. So I felt my bones shift, and it was, people ask me all the time, how does it feel when you were healed? And I can't put it into words because there's no words to describe the feeling. All I could tell you was that my spine was moving, my knees, the bones of my knees were shifting and popping, and and it's just amazing just to relive all of that again. It's just amazing how God did all of that. The spine moving and becoming straighter, and I felt my body shift and my knees shift, and was standing up straighter, and the people who were sitting in the back of me saw the whole thing, you know, and it took me a while to kind of register what was going on. But when I finally had the courage to look down at my legs and see them straight, and I finally had the courage to take my hand and trace it up and down my back, it was, I don't have any words. It was shocking, to say the least. So many things went through my mind. Oh my gosh, this is really happening. Oh my God, you really didn't answer my prayer. Oh my gosh, like, you really did it. Or just processing what was going on at the time. Excitement, gratefulness, gratitude, fear. I'm being honest, because I've never had my bones shift like that before. Yeah. And I didn't, for the first time, you hear about it, but when you experience it for yourself, when you taste and when you see it, you can really say that it is good. And I was able to taste, and I was able to see for myself that he does heal, you know? That is not just for the New Testament believers. That is for today. And he sees your heart. And in due time, the Lord said he will answer. And for so long, I used to beg. And I used to cry and I used to plead with the Lord when I was a young girl. Please heal my legs, because there was so much pain involved in that. Please make me normal, because I wanted to be like the other kids. Please heal my heart, because there was such an identity issue there, because people word curses like you're crippled and what's wrong with your legs, and you know, why can't you walk like that, and just different things that as you're growing up you start to take on, and you start to get skeptical of people and have this warped view of, oh, people don't really like me because of my legs, and it has nothing to do with your image, but because you grew up in that environment and because it wasn't, you didn't have an outlet. I wasn't able to go to counseling as a kid to tell my counselor about certain things that were going on in school, bullying or isolation and going into oneself, like becoming a loner. You know, I was very friendly as a kid, but it was a mask to cover up the pain, to cover up the hurt. And then my grandparents, they didn't know how to help me in that way, in that emotional way. They cared for the physical part, food, shelter, and clothing. They gave me the best that they know how, and I'm so grateful for them, because imagine elderly parents, 50 and 60 years old, taking on a child with cerebral palsy. And they didn't know what to expect. They didn't know how to care for a child with special needs. But I believe that the Lord is sovereign and he is good, and they did the best that they knew how with the resources that they were given. And I think they did a pretty good job, because I'm here today with the help of the Lord. But there was some emotional issues that was going on with me that I didn't know how to work through. And for the Lord to meet that need of finally, after all those years of praying and crying and just pleading with the Lord to heal me, he did it. But he didn't do it because to prove his love for me. He did it because that's who he is. Like for me, the way I was thinking was, Lord, heal me so you can love me. Heal me so that so I can be like everyone else. He's like, Shakeya, I loved you before you were in your mother's womb. He said, I knit you together and I formed you together in your mother's womb. And that's one of the things that I couldn't understand. Like, how can a God who is so holy and who is so loving love someone who had a disability, love someone whose legs were crooked, love someone who has all these issues in her heart, and with rejection and abandonment, because I didn't live with my mom at the time. And it was a lot of pain there with my mom, and just with how I looked at myself. And it was just, how? Because everywhere I go, people were talking about healing and let Jesus make you whole. And everybody was so focused on the physical, and nobody could see my soul. Nobody could see my heart. And I needed someone to see my heart before they could fix my body. Fix my body. And the Lord saw my heart. And as he was doing that heart work here at Nyack College, the physical manifestation of it started to show. And the physical healing was the beginning of the emotional healing that has happened. And I'll tell you the truth, when I got healed, I was so excited. I was telling everyone. I was going around campus sharing my story of healing, telling people I was born with cerebral palsy, and then sharing how my healing happened. But it stopped there, because I didn't want anybody else to know the glory parts. I didn't want anybody else to know the struggles. I didn't want anyone else to know the shame behind it, because I just wanted them to see the glory of it, to see Jesus. But I didn't want them to see the other parts. And it took me 10 years to get the courage to sit in front of a camera and tell people everything behind it. One of the things that the Lord showed me is that I get glory through the mess too. So this is my encouragement to anyone out there who feels like, yes, they're saved. Yes, God has redeemed them from the curse of the law of sin and death. Yes, they're loved and they're accepted, but have hope in the fact that he redeems messy stories too. And everything that comes with it. Like, he doesn't just want the glorified version of your testimony to be shared throughout the earth. He wants the full measure, the beginning and the end. And I think about my brother, Paul, who was Saul before conversion, and how his story was messy, and he killed and persecuted Christians, but the Lord used him to write most of the New Testament, to share the gospel. And I think about Hagar, her story, the abuse she suffered under Sarah and Abraham, but in the wilderness, when she ran away from her master, she cried out to the Lord, and the Lord heard her. And she was actually the first woman in the Bible to give God a name. El Roy, the God who sees me in my suffering. And just so many other people that are in the Bible with just different stories. And if he could use those people, he can use mine. And it's freeing to know that I'm not bound by my past. It's freeing to know that I'm not labeled by a condition. It's freeing to know that I am loved by the Father and that he knows my name. It's freeing to know that the same God who hears my prayers hears yours. And it's freeing to know that he's concerned about the whole person and not just the physical man. So for years, he has been telling me to share the full story. Tell it. Write the book. And it's coming soon. And because I'll get glory in that as well. Yeah.